All right, good morning, everybody. Let's get ready to focus like we've never had before, giving you the keys to the kingdom here. Everything you need to be successful for test 20, and let's see what we have coming up for us. So, I wanted to talk about this one because I'm seeing a lot of it in our daily work. When people list out coordinates on a coordinate plane, you gotta remember to use parentheses, and I'm still seeing some people that aren't aware of labeling the x-axis first. So if we were going to go ahead and label all these different points, here's what it would actually look like. So using parentheses, you would see that point D is 2 along the x-axis and then up 1. So you'd label it 2, 1. Or point B here, 1 along the x-axis, then up 2 along the y, so it would be 1, 2. So which letter names the point at coordinates 3, 2? Well, 3, 2 would be point C, right? All right, let's keep moving on. One coming at us from lesson 11, the old sum plus some more equals the total story problem. A new bat costs $21.45. Wade has $16.75. How much more money does he need to buy the bat? This is the question we have to focus on. And here is our clue word of more money does he need, right? So that's what we're looking for. This is where your variable goes. Maybe you're going to use a W for Wade. So the new bat costs $21.45. Is that some of the money he has or the total of the money that he needs? Hopefully you know right there that would be the total that he needs to buy the bat, right? $21.45 is how much he has to have to be able to buy the bat. It's the total of the cost, right? So that last number over there, that $16.75, that's some of the money that he has already. He has $16.75. They want to know how much more money he needs to buy a bat that has a total cost of $21.45. So, are we going to combine terms or isolate a variable? We're going to get $16.75 over to the other side of the equation and change it into a subtraction problem, right? So this is what we're actually going to have to deal with. If I took $21.45 and I subtracted $16.75, I would end up with $4.70 more. W is going to equal $4.70. Check out this one coming at us from not too long ago in lesson 97. There's 18 girls and 12 boys in the class, and they want to know the ratio of girls to boys. Couple reminders down here. Keep ratios written like a fraction. Do not change them into a mixed number because even though they're not really fractions, they're comparisons between two numbers. So if they want to know the ratio of girls to boys, girls is listed first, so I better put the number of girls. I have 18 in the numerator position, right? And then 12 for the boys. Even though you can't simplify these into mixed numbers, you can go ahead and reduce by dividing by the greatest common factor. And the greatest common factor in this case is 6. Maybe you thought it was 2, maybe you thought it was 3, and you could have started with that, but you would have ended up having to divide more times, right? 18 divided by 6, hey, that's going to give us 3 for a numerator. 12 divided by 6, that's going to give us 2. I guarantee both these numbers are prime. I can't reduce that anymore, so the final ratio is 3 to 2. One coming at us from lesson 74 saying a pencil is 12 centimeters long. And they want to know how many millimeters is 12 centimeters. Well, if you don't know off the top of your head, you could go back to lesson 74 and find out that there's 10 millimeters in 1 centimeter. So you got to think of this as 12 groups of 10 because there's 10 millimeters. 12 groups of 10, 12 times 10 would be a grand total of 120 millimeters. One coming at us from lesson 61 and 73. I highly recommend drawing a picture out, will definitely help you. And they are telling you that segment AB, this piece of the line right here, is 2 8/10 of a centimeter. 2 8/10. And then it says segment BC is 1 8/10. From that part of the line to that part of the line is 1 8/10. And now it says segment CD equals segment BC. So if BC was 1 8/10, segment CD also has to be 1 8/10, right? And so now they just want to know what is the total length of this segment, of segment AD. All we're going to have to do is go ahead and add up these three pieces, right? So I went ahead and added 2 8/10 plus 1 8/10 plus another 1 8/10, making sure to line them up at the decimal point, and I ended up with segment AD being 6 4/10 of a centimeter. Check out this one coming at us from lesson 85. A pint is what fraction of a quart? You could go back into lesson 85 and it will tell you that there are 2 pints in a quart. So how am I going to list this out as a fraction? Well, the denominator of fractions is always the total number of pieces. We have a total of 2 pints in a quart. And if I'm going and talking about a quart, sounds to me like just 1 quart, right? We're talking about 1, so your fraction would be 1/2 of a quart. Let's check it out here again. A quart is what fraction of a gallon? So that word quart, think like quarters. There are 4 total quarts in a gallon. Again, if you don't know that, you can go back because it tells you on lesson 85. So again, I'm talking about a gallon, right? So that would be 1/4. Here's where it gets a little bit more interesting. Use the answers above to determine what fraction of a gallon a pint represents. So a pint is going to be 1/2 of 1/4, right? What does that word of mean again? It means multiply. 1/2 times 1/4. So a pint would be 1/8 of a gallon. Estimate the product of 517 and 291. 517, is he going to be closer to 500 or 600? If the neighbor's only 1, he's going to be closer to 500, right? Let's take a look at 291. Is he going to be closer to 200 or closer to 300? The neighbor is more than 5, so we can round up to 300. So now the product, hopefully everybody knows, means multiply. And let's go and take the shortcut right now. I have 4 total zeros in this problem, right? So that means I'm going to need 4 total zeros in my answer. I'm going to start off with 3 times 5 is 15. And then let's just go ahead and write in 4 total zeros before we go and have to put in our commas. And I ended up with 150,000 for the estimated answer. Simplify this decimal number. Remember the rules. We don't want to start off whole numbers with zeros, so we can get rid of the zeros in the front, and we don't need zeros in the back of our decimal numbers, so we can end up with 5 and 77 thousandths. What is the reciprocal of 7/5? Hopefully you know that word reciprocal simply means to flip the fraction around. We use it when we're dividing fractions. So the reciprocal of 7/5, I just have to flip it around, and I end up with 5/7 for a reciprocal. Here we have to go and reduce. Remember, when we're reducing mixed numbers, don't even worry about the whole number until the end. We have to divide by the greatest common factor. That doesn't mean if you pick just a common factor that's not the greatest, you're not sunk, but you're going to have to divide more than once, right? The greatest common factor here is 4. If you use 2, you'd be dividing a couple of different times. So let's pick the greatest common factor and only have to divide once. 8 divided by 4, that's going to give me 2. 12 divided by 4, that's also going to go and give us 3. But we're not out of the woods yet. Let's go and bring the whole number back into it, because my answer is not 2/3. My answer is 3 2/3. Here we have 3 4/10 plus 25 hundredths plus 6. Remember the rule. If one number is written with a decimal point, they all must be written as a decimal point, because I have to use the decimal points to line the numbers up. So let's go and start lining up our numbers. Once I have my numbers lined up nice, neat, and straight at the decimal point, it's always a good idea, whether you're adding or subtracting, to fill in your empty places with zeros so you don't go and make a silly, sloppy mistake, right? Then it's just a matter of lining up and adding. 0 plus 5 plus 0 is going to give us 5. 0 plus 2 plus 4, hey, that's going to be 6. Decimal point comes straight down in the answer, and 6 plus 0 plus 3 more, that's 9, for a grand total of 9 and 65 hundredths. Here we have 2 to the 4th power. This does not equal 8, right? I haven't seen people make that mistake for a while. 2 is the base. That's the number we are repeatedly multiplying. 4 is the exponent. That's the number of times we're going to multiply it. I want to multiply out 2 4 times, not 2 times 4. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 more is 8, times that final 2 is 16, right? Let's keep moving on. What is the square root of 100? I'm not seeing too many people struggle here. What number times itself is going to be 100? And hopefully everybody knows 10 times 10 equals 100. So the square root of 100 is 10. Check out this one. The biggest mistake I'm seeing here are people who don't go and double check everything, and they just do one half of the problem. You do the work in parentheses first, but don't forget about the second half of the problem, right? 1 1/3 plus 2 1/3, that's pretty easy. I think I can do that mentally. I end up with 3 2/3. I don't see anybody really struggling there, but don't forget to go and set up the second half of the problem then. It's going to look like this. 6 minus 3 2/3. So this is a little trickier to do, and I recommend using scratch paper. You can't start with nothing and subtract 2/3, right? You have to go and borrow. People trying to do these mentally is where we come into the problem. I have to borrow one whole off of that 6. And how am I going to write one whole? If I'm using a denominator of 3, I want to write it 3/3. So now I can get ready to subtract. 3/3 minus 2/3 is going to give us 1/3. Over to the whole number side, 5 minus 3 is 2 for a total answer of 2 1/3. All right, check out this one from not so long ago, back in lesson 96. We have 2/3 divided by 3/4, and still have a couple of people struggling with this. You always have 2 steps when dividing fractions. Change divide into times, and then you want to go and write the reciprocal of the second fraction. I have some people trying to flip both fractions, or some people trying to write the reciprocal of just the first fraction. Only the second fraction. So if you start off with divided by 3/4, you want to go and flip those digits around. Instead of 3 over 4, you want to multiply it by 4 over 3, correct? So now let's go ahead and multiply numerator times numerator. 2 times 4, that's going to give us 8. And then denominator times denominator. 3 times 3, that would give us 9 for a grand total of 8/9. One coming at us from lesson 91, 5/8 plus 5/8. Well, to start off with, that's so easy we could do it mentally. 5 plus 5 is 10. Every so often I have people trying to tell me then you go 8 plus 8 is 16. No, the denominator stays the same, so you end up with 10/8. But this is what we're working on in the mental math, right? So we got a couple of different things we have to do. First of all, the numerator is greater than the denominator. So I have a mixed number situation here, right? 8 divides into 10 one whole time. Would multiply back for 8 and subtract for 2. So you have 2/8, 1 and 2/8. But 2/8, they're both even. So now I have to go and deal with the 2/8, right? And go and reduce it by dividing both sides by 2. So 2 divided by 2 is going to give you 1. 8 divided by 2 is going to give you 4. But let's not forget about our whole number and get him back into the answer for a grand total of 1 1/4. Check out this one. 3/4 times 2. I have a couple people still struggling. Any whole number can be written as a fraction by writing it with a denominator of 1. So if I had to multiply by the whole number 2, you got to think of it as 2 over 1. Then you can go and multiply numerator times numerator again. 3 times 2, hey, that is 6. Denominator times denominator. 4 times 1 is 4. But we have another one of those problems that we're practicing in the mental math. You have an improper fraction. The numerator is greater than the denominator. 4 is going to divide into 6 one whole time, and you'll have 2 left over. So now I have 1 2/4. But I'm still not done yet because 2/4, they're both even. So I could go ahead and divide both sides by 2, right? 2 divided by 2, that's going to give us a grand total of 1 and 4 divided by 2, that's 2. Hopefully a lot of people do. Oh, come on, Mr. Hines, I know 2/4 is equal to a half. But don't forget to bring your whole number back over in the end. So now I have 1 and 1/2. And that, folks, is the end. You know, Socrative quiz today, you want to double check your questions and your answers for the test. Go slow, go careful, and good luck.